My family wants me to forgive my brother after he tried to grape my fiancée. Part 2. For those that are just hearing about this, I caught my brother trying to force himself on my fiancée by pinning her to the bed, one hand covering her mouth, and the other hand attempting to slip underneath her dress. I found them in one of the rooms at a family member's house. We were all there for a family party, and after not seeing my fiancée for a while and hearing muffled noises coming from upstairs, I had to check things out. When I opened the bedroom door, I saw my fiancée desperately resisting my brother. Long story short, she ended up fleeing to safety after I had leapt on top of him and bloodied his face relentlessly. Let me emphasize things, this was my own fudging brother, my blood. Regardless, the events that unfolded are horrible and disgusting, but to have family be involved from both ends of the stick, attacker and victim, made things all the more difficult. This wouldn't end up just hurting my fiancée, but it would break up our entire family. I was thinking about forgiving my brother for his actions, but I've decided I would never be able to get over what he did. Forcing yourself on my fiancée is beyond too far, and the damage that's done can't be backtracked. I will never forgive him, so for clarification to those that are wondering, I no longer have a brother, that man died for me. It's not every member of my family that is trying to figure out any way possible to forgive my brother, it's just the minority of my family that thinks this. Minority meaning, nearly no one except for my parents. My sister is on my fiancé and I's side, she is the best friend of my fiancé and the only one besides me that knows how much she suffered the first month after the incident. I told my parents that if either of them hosted my brother to stay with them, and if I found out about it, I would never speak to them again. From what my mother told me, my brother and her shared a phone call, where he talked about how he moved to the other side of our country, changed his name, and started taking therapy, so that one day he could reform. Bullshiz. None of us really knew much more information about him at the moment, because no one has really asked or cared. For those that are wondering about why my brother isn't in jail, the main reason is because I beat up my brother until he had to be taken to the hospital. When I consulted a lawyer friend of mine, she told me that if I pressed charges against my brother, he could also drag me with him to jail for some time. Taking this course of action would also mean that my fiancée needed to testify, and she wasn't in the best of moments for something like that. My priority at that moment was her, and I couldn't help her if I was in jail. I realized something else from all of this. While I was reading the comments of my previous post, I noticed how people were mentioning how my brother was confident enough to try to grape my fiancée in a house full of people, and that for my parents to still support and protect my brother, that there was the possibility that my brother had done something like that before, and even worse, that my parents have covered up his mess before. These comments shook my world again and I never thought about that possibility. I showed and talked to my fiancée about a lot of this and the comments and possibilities sent shivers down both of our spines. We eventually went around for the next couple of weeks, getting in contact or finding people that knew my brother close enough to know anything sketcy enough about him. My fiancée and I started hearing more and more stories about him, which has now convinced me that my brother is a menace for everyone around him. Since yesterday, everyone involved has reunited all the possible evidence against my brother, and when we are ready, we are going to show everything to everyone in our community, in social media, and to anyone we can. I haven't talked about any of this with my parents, but tomorrow morning I'm going to drop the bomb on them, along with an ultimatum. I'm going to tell them that if we find any proof that shows that anyone knows about the things my brother had done, they are also going to pay the consequences by not coming forward. This is not how I imagine the weeks after my proposal, but this is something we can't let past us. My fiancée has been there for me in every step, and I have done my best to be there for her in all of this mess. I can't imagine how she feels now, but I am so proud of her, and that she doesn't fear to face her trauma if that allows her to help others.